Hello, good morning. Welcome
Good
to
morning, Mr. Mawere.
good morning. Good morning to you all. Today, I thought we could talk about the role of a president in a republic or constitutional democracy. Does a shared understanding exist as to what this person is expected to be doing in office, or we all don't have a shared understanding, and the expectations and reality of the job don't often meet? To discuss this, I got Mr. Terai Guidance. Uh, Hello, and also Wellington Mzengezi. Good morning. Mr. Mudimu, we can start with you. And today my focus is on identity, citizenship. What is it that the president must know, ought to know, on starting with the question of identity? I start with you, Mr. Terai. Who are you?
Thank you, Mr. Mawere. I would want to say good morning to everyone listening. And to everyone listening, I am Tererai Guidance Mudimu. I am the founder of the I Am Zimbabwe Youth Forum. And I'm also the spokesperson of Zimbabwe Citizen Movement, which is also a youth movement that just recently started. I'm a social activist, an artist, a poet, a songwriter, an actor. So basically, I'm an entrepreneur as well. So basically, that is my profile. So to answer to the question that you have posed, Mr. Mawere, I think the role of the president in a constitutional democracy is to identify himself as the first citizen. And remember, the president should uphold the Constitution and should be the custodian of the Constitution.
I'm starting with you just to say who you are, and you have already given multiple identities of who you are. It's not just one identity. Secondly, are you Zimbabwean?
Yes, I am a Zimbabwean citizen.
What makes you a Zimbabwean? Not citizen.
I was born in that part of the land called Zimbabwe, in a place up north in Mangura. So I am a Zimbabwean by birth, because I was born in that part of the world.
Now assume you are a president and you are asked the same question: who should be Zimbabwean? Who is entitled to be Zimbabwean? What would be your answer, given that you are saying you are Zimbabwean by birth? Are you saying anyone who is not born in Zimbabwe should not be Zimbabwean?
I am not saying that. If I'm to answer your question with honesty and earnestness, I would say we are who we are because of the places we were born. Because maybe if I was born in China, I would be a Chinese person right now. So I think we are all citizens of this globe, despite where we were born. But then the identity of where we are coming from is very important for other people to identify from which part of the globe. So I think that the issue of saying that people who are born in Zimbabwe will be Zimbabweans only, it will be a misguided understanding, in my personal thought.
So I think that there is and there ought to be a relationship between birth, place, and identity. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. And let's go to Mr. Wellington Muzengeza. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Mawere. Good morning, Tererai.
Good morning.
Are you a Zimbabwean?
Yes, I'm Zimbabwean by birth. Yes, I'm a Zimbabwean citizen by birth.
All right. And are you saying that there is and ought to be a relationship between birthplace and identity?
Yes, there should be a relationship where one is born automatically. That's where one becomes a citizen. But then one can also acquire citizenship through other means, which means that they will have entitlement to the land where they live in, because the country is for the people who are born there and those who live in it.
Okay, now assume you are the president of Zimbabwe and you are a president of 10 million people. Who do you think should be entitled to the identity of being a Zimbabwean?
All right. Those who live in Zimbabwe, those who were born in Zimbabwe, and those who live in it. So people can live in a country.
And those who live outside Zimbabwe, what would you call them? By choice, by force?
Those ones, those are diaspora. People who are in the diaspora are also Zimbabweans because they do not abdicate their birthright by voluntarily going into exile. So
you're saying that birth. Let's say I'm born outside the territory of Zimbabwe.
Yes.
But my parents were born in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Am I entitled to the right of identity, not citizenship yet?
Definitely, you are entitled to right of identity because you'll be a first generation immigrant, especially if you are born to parents who were born in Zimbabwe. You have your identity is closely linked to Zimbabwe.
What does the Constitution say, Mr. Tererai, in terms of identity, citizenship?
Yes, Mr. Mawere. I think the Constitution clearly states that everyone was born in Zimbabwe and everyone who lives in Zimbabwe is a citizen of Zimbabwe.
It doesn't say so because I could live in Zimbabwe as a resident.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Yes.
So yes. Citizenship and residence are two things. You could be born in Zimbabwe but died outside Zimbabwe.
In terms of citizenship, the Constitution clearly says that by birthright, you become a citizen.
Okay, we will look at the Constitution as we go further to say exactly what does it say. And if there's somebody who is out there who has a copy of the Constitution, because we want to promote constitutionalism so that we ensure that what we are saying is founded on what the Constitution says. And now, hashtag Zimbabwe Lives Matter. What is your take on that hashtag?
On the Zimbabwean Lives Matter, it's a good initiative, which will go a long way in informing Zimbabweans and worldwide citizens at large about the situations that is going on in Zimbabwe, social and economic situation. So in that regard, I am saying that the hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter is very, very important because it's going to give the citizens of Zimbabwe themselves a chance to have progressive conversation on matters of concern in terms of the depleting economic situation that we have seen going on for decades now. And it will give that chance for the international community that
we're just looking at this idea called president. Do you agree that there is no shared understanding about what a Zimbabwean is and is not? Wellington, do you agree that there is no negotiation as to who is Zimbabwean, who is not?
Yes, in a way. The constitution is quite clear that a person can be Zimbabwean by descent, registration, or also by birth. So
that's right. So there are many bridges to becoming Zimbabwean.
Yes. So by descent is where that is the scenario that you described, where one is born of Zimbabwean parents outside the country of Zimbabwe. So by virtue of being a descendant of a Zimbabwean, they are a citizen of the country. They can claim citizenship. And then the other one is just where they can just register, obviously by that.
All right. So if you take that as a starting point, that there is no shared understanding of what is the bridge to identity, because I could be Chinese and still be Zimbabwean.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
But do you agree that there is no when you say Zimbabwean lives matter, there is no shared understanding of who is a Zimbabwean and who is not?
Yes.
There seems to be a certain belief amongst some Zimbabweans who are at home that those in the diaspora do not have the right to make noise about Zimbabwe because, one, they are detached from what is going on in Zimbabwe. They are probably not experiencing what Zimbabweans go through. And three, in terms of safety, the safety risk that those in Zimbabwe have, which means they can just say anything. But that is not correct, because now it doesn't necessarily mean that just because one is not in Zimbabwe, they have no right or no vested.
No, I'm just talking, Wellington, I'm just dealing with this issue of president. If you are then appointed and there's no agreement as to who is Zimbabwean, who should be Zimbabwean, do you see that as a problem in terms of you discharging your duties? Even the hashtag itself, it doesn't say all lives matter. It says Zimbabwean lives matter, which means including those you dislike.
Yes.
As long as they're Zimbabwean. But if there's no agreement that of what it means to be Zimbabwean, then you may be in the same movement, in the same hashtag, without knowing that you are enemies.
Very true. Very true. And I agree with you, Mr. Mawere, on that.
So if you were president and you are confronted with the hashtag, what should be your obligation? And maybe, Wellington, you can read what it says about duties of a president. What does it say in terms of the Constitution?
Okay, let me. It says that the president is the head of state, which means that they are the ceremonial.
No, it's Section 90.
Section 90, yes, Section 90.
It's Clause 90.
I opened only a section of the Constitution. Maybe maybe Terry can, if you're already there.
I'm looking at it. It says the president must uphold, defend, obey, and respect this Constitution as the supreme law of the nation, and must ensure that this Constitution and all the other laws are faithfully observed. So you have a duty to uphold, defend, obey, and respect.
Yes.
Not only the Constitution, but the laws.
Mm.
So
Yes.
even if I dislike you, the Constitution compels me to respect you, to defend
Very
you.
true. Very true.
So that is the duty given, reserved for the individual who becomes president.
President, yes.
Do we agree?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes,
It
we
does
do agree. We
say
do. We are in agreement.
to defend your party members, to respect your party members. There's nothing in the Constitution that talks about a party. It talks about the
Yes.
Constitution as the supreme law. And any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is deemed to be invalid.
Yes.
Are we understanding there?
Yes, yes. We are in agreement there. We are in agreement.
And it says the president must. It doesn't say the president may.
Yes. It
There's
is
no
mandated to.
To promote unity and peace in the nation for the benefit and well-being of all the people of Zimbabwe. All the people of Zimbabwe. Of Zimbabwe. Recognize and respect the ideals and values of the liberation struggle. Do you agree that we have no shared understanding?
Yes, I do agree, Mr. Mawere, that there is no shared understanding. And there is a need for more conversations among citizens to really get to the bottom of the common goal, and to have that shared vision, because we might have differences, but we would want to do the same thing in a different way. So it is very, very important to encourage dialogue amongst ourselves, and that duty is given to the president.
Tara, you're already going beyond. We're just discussing ideas.
Yes.
Not the person of the president.
Yes, yes.
Because tomorrow it could be you. And there's no template of what it means to be a president. Is that correct, Wellington?
Yes, yes, yes. There isn't.
Yeah. So we're just improving literacy without attacking anyone. This is not the hashtag, yes. Point the finger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are saying that the Constitution compels whoever is the president to be a servant, to be below the Constitution, below the laws.
Yes.
Is that correct? So
yes,
if
very, very correct.
If already have a disagreement with Tererai.
Where, Mr. Mawere?
He was the president. I don't know where Bush I have to pretend I was born. Because if I'm not Zimbabwean in Zimbabwe, then my rights to Zimbabwe are qualified. If I leave Zimbabwe and take citizenship of another country by choice, why should I claim Zimbabwean citizenship when I've already chosen to be outside it? Imagine a lion is born in Zimbabwe, Wellington. It goes to Mozambique. What does it become?
It's still a lion.
It's still a lion, but it doesn't become Zimbabwean lion, except Tererai. When he's in Cape Town, he's still a Zimbabwean lion.
Yes, he's still a Zimbabwean lion. He's still a lion of Zimbabwean origin. While sitting.
No, that's origin. It doesn't matter where you come from. Right now, the three of us, it doesn't matter where we come from. We are all human beings, and we have to respect each other as human beings.
Very true.
Irrespective of where I am born. So I can't go to Cape Town by choice. and claim to be injured in Zimbabwe?
There could be reasons.
No. I'm saying is I'm just dealing with causal link relationship that I'm already excluded from the bus. There's an accident. Then imagine Wellington, there's an accident in a bus that you are not a passenger. Would you be crying to say I'm injured?
No.
Would you be pushing causes that expose the fact that you are not in the bus, but you claim to be in the bus? Whereas the people in the bus are quiet about their condition in the bus.
Just to comment there, I just want to get your true thought there, Mr. Mawere, about the accident in the bus, and in relation to what we are discussing now. So, are you now saying that those who are Zimbabweans who are not in Zimbabwe shouldn't be making noise about the situation in Zimbabwe?
I'm only provoking conversations so that we get deeper into this question.
Yes, because I think the question, I do agree with you with your opening sentiment as well, that we have not explored very much the concept of identity, the concept of identifying ourselves as a people. And we have not gone back to the constitution like what we have.
I'm talking to you. Don't say we. I have not. I'm thinking about what you're saying because we are talking to each other. Yeah, there's nobody with a prescription. I'm not talking on behalf of anybody else. So
yes, so I remember the we always comes in the umbrella of humanity. It's not a we of imposing a philosophy.
No,
so
I'm talking to you.
I am saying that the question of identity among Zimbabweans is not being explored to such a point that we can really get to understand that shared understanding of identity.
Do you agree that it's not a Zimbabwean question only? It's a universal question.
I could agree on that, but since I look at Zimbabwe a lot, and that's what I know, and that what I can comment on. I wouldn't want to speak on the other countries because I wouldn't know much of their structures on how to identify themselves.
Is identity an issue in the affairs of mankind?
Yes.
That's all. So let's not make ourselves exceptional human beings who have exceptional identity problems.
Yeah, that I do agree with you, but the question should be explored more.
Yeah, so I think that's all this show was about, to say, let's agree to think, let's agree to interrogate, introspect, and subject any idea to some test so that we may converge towards a shared understanding without fighting, without hashtags. There are many people who are in the hashtags who are tribal, who think Zimbabwe should be Kabanga, should be Zezuru, and Mabranda and Adogeregui, Kumalawi.
Yes.
Yeah. Yet we are in the same hashtag, thinking that we are fighting for the same outcome. when in truth and fact, there is no such convergence of thinking.
But I think, Mr. Mawere, it's important to contextualize the Zimbabwe Lives Matter hashtag, what it means and who started it and how it started and why, instead of just generalizing it to say that it's saying only Zimbabweans and not necessarily all lives matter.
No, I'm just saying is if we are talking about the president on identity, if you were Wellington, a president, and the constitution says all the people of Zimbabwe, it means by your job, you are already limited in terms of what you can do or cannot do. You can't call me a foreigner because I'm outside the country.
Yes.
You can't outlaw vuvuzelas, like Victor Mamvura is saying. It's not as simple as that, Mr. Mawere. If you have a good in the bus, and even if you are not in the bus, you obviously still get concerned if the bus is involved in an accident. That's concern.
Yes.
But my duty in terms of the constitution is to the people of Zimbabwe.
So I think I would want to comment on what Wellington said, and I think it's very important that we take his contribution very seriously, because it's very important to contextualize this hashtags and really understand the concept behind this hashtag, so that we don't leave other people out who are interested or who want to be part of it. Merely because people do not really understand the concept.
Right now, let's go deeper into the understanding by provoking the people to come forward. Who coined the word Zimbabwe? What do they mean by Zimbabwe? I'm not asking you to do that or to make it complex, because somebody thought about it and somebody executed it. But his idea need not be my idea. I have no business substituting the person who came up with the idea. And if they are alive, I have an obligation to dig deeper.
Yes.
So that we interrogate these ideas from the authors. There are many people who are presidents who don't know what their duties are. There are many people with hashtags who don't know what the Constitution says.
Yes, very true.
Yeah. So if we know that,
but I do understand the nature of the conversation we are having now. But I would want to be on the part of the more of getting into the solution part of how do we help ourselves to identify ourselves? How do we get?
How do I help myself understand? Because the solution is not here. Because the three of us are just too small to change the views of millions of people. Some are not on Twitter, some don't have data, some are outside the bus.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can do is talk about our own views, our own ideas on identity. Hopefully somebody out there would be able to think differently and perhaps act differently. And I don't know whether, Wellington, you understand me, that solutions, there are many people who want solutions. Imagine there was a laboratory where solutions will come from. Wouldn't we be at the laboratory, all of us? Why would we be on a live show? And we have solutions.
Because the point of creating solution, I for one, I would want to find myself and really understand the identity question, because I see that it could be one of the biggest problems that is making us to reach to the situation that we have reached now. So in my perspective, I would want to see more of such discussions and more people coming to the fore and putting their minds on finding ways of identification.
But it starts with you. If
yes,
you say,
that's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying that I would want to see more people joining and coming through.
We have
even in this conversation that we are having right now, with their thoughts on how best can a person identify themselves.
Not how best,
because my like what you have said before, that my idea cannot be your idea.
No,
so basically that means that
right now the three of us have stepped forward.
Yes.
And you wanted a conversation. But the conversation that you wanted is not the one we are having.
Yes. But the conversation that we are having is very, very important as well.
No,
very,
I'm saying
very pertinent.
That's negotiation. Because if I didn't negotiate with you, you would have walked out to say, this is not my script. But you were able to be flexible, to allow a variation of your idea of what is at stake. That's all that life is.
But me, I want to ask my brother Wellington there. Do you have any thoughts on how best a person can help themselves to identify their identity? Because it seems as if this identity issue is universal, like what Mr. Mawere has pointed out. But how best can the human race and people in particular, like have that kind of how do we introspect to find our identity? If we have any thoughts on that particular thought.
I think I think our identity is very clear. Who we are, what we are, and what we are not is very clear. The Constitution is very clear on it. Like Mr. Mawere alludes to the Constitution, where he says that what is the role of the president? All right, the president is clearly identified by the Constitution. There is the office of the president. There is the person of the president. All right, those distinctions are quite clear. So there are duties that are associated with the office of the president, responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities, the president is responsible for us as the leader, as the citizens. There's already of what is three categories of identity which we have already discussed: birth, descent, registration. So the president has an obligation to those people. So when we say a person is a Zimbabwean, they can be either of those three. So that is very clear. So to identify who the president is, what the office of the president stands for, and what responsibilities there is key, as much as it is to identify who a Zimbabwean is at home or abroad. It must be clear. So when people come up with hashtags where they say Zimbabwean lives matter, already we know we've already identified which lives matter. They're Zimbabwean. And whose jurisdiction are those lives? They are the president. So it doesn't matter where Zimbabwean, as long as they can lay claim to being Zimbabwean with then the president has to identify those people as under his leadership. That is my view.
So imagine me and Wellington don't agree that a person in a bus and a person outside the bus and I'm supposed to be the driver to take people from point A to point B, and I'm drunk, I'm under the influence, who should be concerned about my state of mind? Is it the person in the bus or the person outside the bus?
I think it goes both ways because looking at the point that was brought before by one of the viewers, which says that they could be concerned with the person who's outside the bus. So I think the responsibility is equally on them. Those who are outside the bus and those who are inside the bus to check the credibility of the driver.
I'm driving a bus and a dog is barking. What should I do? Stop the bus to hear what the dog is saying?
You could stop the bus if the dog is in front of you. Would you run over it?
No, I'm saying is that you are introducing a new thing. The dog is barking anyway because I am moving. Yes. Should I stop to hear the dog?
No, you shouldn't stop to hear the dog because remember, there's another.
The dog is in the bus. And
because because I remember I was dealing with the question that you brought before about the drunk driver. So that's why I'm saying that the responsibility is equally the same for the people that are outside the bus who have concern with the things that are on the bus and the people that are in the bus who are concerned about the well-being of the driver. So I think they have equally the same concern that they should all check the driver to make sure that those who are not inside the bus but have got interest inside the bus, those interests that are inside the bus, they are secured. So they have got equally the responsibility of checking the credibility of the driver.
Okay, I'm just saying
but that.
Let me ask the same question to Wellington. Wellington, yes. You are the driver of the bus. The dog barks because you are moving. What should you do? Stop the bus to listen to the dog?
Okay, so this is what happens. Dogs are going to bark at any moving object anyway. All right, and the bus has got a destination. The bus has got a starting point. So whoever is driving the bus and those on board have an interest in what is happening with the bus. So the bus is going to leave and the bus is going to go where it's supposed to go. It will reach its destination, regardless of dogs barking, because dogs will bark anyway. If dogs have an interest in getting on board the bus, they go to the ticketing office, secure a ticket for themselves, and get on the bus. But if they don't agree, they'll just bark on the wayside. But the bus is not going to stop doing its bus business because of dogs that bark. That is my view.
So if you look at the president as a driver of a bus, then there are people who left the bus and they are now prodigal people in the bush. Then they are the ones who are more vocal about this bus and the driver's qualities. What would you say to these people?
So now, I think now this is where now there needs to be consensus or a shared understanding. Why did these people leave the bus? Did they leave because of the incompetence of the driver, or because they were push factors from the bus? They were pushed away from the bus involuntarily. Now people need to sit down and talk. Does that mean that even though they've some type of shareholding on the bus or ownership of the bus, just because they've gone on to join another bus, they have no interest in the older bus? So those are the type. That is the conversation that people maybe should be having.
What if there is no conversation at all? that a person who is elected to be outside marriage cannot be bound by the rules of the marriage.
They can be bound by the rules of marriage.
If I find my ex-wife with another man, what should I do?
That's your ex-wife. I think citizenship of matters of citizenship and marriage are a bit different. Because marriage is transactional, and also it can be terminal as well, but not citizenship. Citizenship, you do not terminate citizenship.
What is the citizenship to you? That's enough for another day. But this is the kind of challenges that we face in terms of developing a shared understanding. Sometimes these conversations don't take place with somebody saying you are this or that. Why are you defending this? Why are you even asking those questions?
Yes.
But I think it's important.
Yes, I do agree with you, Mr. Mawela. You can go on,
I think it's important that we understand that a Zimbabwean does not cease to be a Zimbabwean simply because they've decided to voluntarily or involuntarily go and live in another country. They continue to have a vested interest in their own country, and they should be recognized by the state or by government, or particularly by the president, because they have not ceased to be Zimbabwean. They remain Zimbabwean.
But the constitution does not support you.
Maybe the constitution around provoking the discussion around the constitution supporting that.
No, I'm saying is tell me where in the constitution where the president has a duty outside the people that are within.
There's no that are outside the country. Yeah. Of course, there's no way where the
it will be interfering with the sovereignty of Zimbabwe. Okay.
Can I come in there? Since the constitution clearly stipulates that the president is working for all the people of Zimbabwe, for the people of the nation. So that means everyone who's citizen, whether they are inside or outside, as long as they carry the Zimbabwean identity, they are still under his jurisdiction. He should still protect.
So you are saying that
and do.
If I'm in New Zealand, then the president of Zimbabwe has a duty to protect me.
Yes.
That's why there's a mission.
Zimbabwean government has a duty. That's why there's yes. I think that's where we
I hear your views, and just imagine you got those strong views like Rangaverenga. Mutuma, don't be so stupid. Already saying I'm stupid by asking. What kind of intolerance is that?
I think maybe Rangani tone down on the language. This is a civil platform where people should conduct themselves in the most
respectable manner.
So I can't ask you questions because some people believe that the questions are already answered in their heads.
Yeah, very true. And that's where the point of the power of communication comes through. You know, we haven't in my thought, in my personal analysis, our families, or I can say in most families that I've noticed in Zimbabwe, the culture of serious dialogue is not cultivated, but there's a culture of people being given commands or things to do without question.
Talk about
so I think I think that speaks to Ranga to say that we as people we need to learn to respect each other. We need
No,
to,
yeah,
to respect other people's diversity
just-
views
no, just talk
without fighting. Or yes, I'm just talking to that particular stupid
no, this is Ranga,
quotation that you got.
not the people. Ranga is typed this, and
Yes,
that's
Ranga.
it, really. That's it.
Ranga his thoughts, Ranga. His thoughts, Ranga. He needs to learn to be tolerant, because that's the nature of conversation. It does not mean everything that you say people will agree with it, and that does not mean that everything that people say you agree with it. So that's where tolerance comes in. So the nature of conversation has to have a high level of tolerance so that we can try to have a way forward. Anyone that you're having a conversation with, you should be tolerant to hear what they are thinking. Because unfortunately, without them speaking, we will never know what is in their mind. So conversations has to be there so that we'll know what the other person is thinking. That's my thought. And tolerance should be the fundamental philosophy of conversation. And respect should be also upheld in conversation.
And Wellington, when somebody says, don't be so stupid, what kind of idea informs that comment?
So now when people use certain adjectives to describe certain things or whatever, they have their reasons. But beyond the insult there, underneath there's a point there. He's saying if people left the bus, you need to ask why did they leave the bus in the first place. That is a good point. That is a good point.
But what if it's a bad point?
Sorry?
What if it's a bad point? It's fatally flawed.
Well, that is relative. That is subjective. Whether it's a good point or not.
Do you agree that in a population of millions, then we must have a conversation whether a person who leaves the house, a person who leaves a relationship, can be bound by the rules of the place that he left or by the rules of the place that he arrives at?
Yes, they could be. I mean, Mr. Mawere, we have to be practical. What we're saying is, if one has been in a marriage and things go wrong in that marriage, there could be many extenuating circumstances that can lead to divorce. But once there are children that were born out,
you are now introducing another thing again, Wellington. I didn't introduce anything, but can you see the difficulty of sticking to a point and getting down to it? All we are saying is that your son has left, he's a prodigal son. While he's in that adventure, which rules apply? If he kills somebody in the place where he now calls home, which law should be applicable?
They do not stop from being their father's child, Mr. Mawere.
I'm not asking that. I'm saying the person has left, whatever reasons, and arrived at point B and commits an offense in point B. What laws should be applicable?
It's the laws of point B where he is.
That's all. That's all we're trying to understand, that active citizenship is based on constitutionalism. And Zimbabwe is a territory that has people who agree to govern themselves in a certain way. And South Africa is another territory.
But then, Mr. Mawere, the father cannot then disinherit their child. They're still entitled to their inheritance.
You have opted to be outside the womb. You are now a human being. Don't behave as if you are still in the womb.
But there is a problem. Say, I have a serious problem with that assertion, Mr. Mawere. basically you are implying that one should not be involved in the business, say, of Zimbabwe because they have left the country. They should be bound by
I didn't say that.
Where they presently reside, and they should forget about Zimbabwe. I
never said those words.
Mm.
All I'm saying is that once you've elected to be outside the bus, the driver has an obligation to the passengers to take them where they want to go.
But that is very true.
Not to drive people who are not the bus.
For example, they are remitting at least $600 million a year to their families in Zimbabwe.
No, you are not answering the question. You are now introducing other things of remittances or economic impact. You could be an investor. It doesn't make you part of that body to deal with constitutionalism.
But can I come in there?
All right.
I'm just to support what my brother Wellington is saying here. Because, you know, in my perspective, I think there's a serious clash between constitutionalism and our traditional way of life. So it brings a lot of contradictions in understanding the Constitution to be applicable practically. So in an instance like what you are saying now, it could be very difficult for the president to be looking out for other citizens that are outside the country if there is no mechanisms that has been put in place to support that kind of a situation. So I think the importance of the president is for the president to understand that he represents all citizens. So no matter the citizens are in the country or the citizens are outside the country, because that would give a more comprehensive meaning of the Constitution, in my perspective. Because then it does not make sense to say that Zimbabweans, the president should uphold the Constitution and protect all Zimbabweans. And then the president says he's not going to be protecting those who are outside the border, and yet they are also Zimbabweans. So for it to make sense, I think it clearly means that those who are outside the bus, and yet they still have invested interest in the bus, and they are still shareholders of the bus, they should be given their rightful place where they belong. That's my take, and so that we do not conflict ourselves and end up in circles of not understanding where we want to be and where we want to go. That's my take, Mr. Mugabe.
All right. So I think any closing remarks, Wellington?
Yes. My closing remarks, I would say that leadership is very important, and identity of that leadership is very important. We identify who the leader is, and we identify who is being led. I think it's very important. Now, constitutionalism, as we mentioned, that is very important as well. But look, let's also think outside the box. What are the extenuating circumstances that are involved in leadership? What challenges does the president face as they execute their duties according to the Constitution? Some of them, the Constitution may be saying right, but reality says left. So should we not have a conversation about the right and left issues together, and then build a shelter and create some kind of understanding that is mutual or shared?
All right. And Tererai, what are your concluding remarks?
Thank you. And I would want to thank everyone who has been part of this conversation. It's a very, very important conversation. And in my closing remarks, I would want to say to all those that have been doing this broadcast to also have the question in their mind on how to identify ourselves as Zimbabwe. So I would ask the people out there, including myself, to do an introspection of how the Constitution is applicable in terms of the identity, and to really understand the meanings of our identity as a people through the national flag and the coat of arms and the national anthem. I think those three really brings us together in terms of understanding who we are and identifying ourselves. And with the president, I think it's very, very important also to take the points that Mr. Wellington has said, that there is reality and there's things on white paper. So we need to balance the two and try to find a shared common understanding of a common vision of the Zimbabwe that we want. Thank you.
All right, I think we started with a conversation about the president, one individual among many who is elected or finds himself in this office as contemplated in terms of the Constitution. He is a mortal, also fallible human being like all of us. When we ask these questions, they are important. Who am I serving? Who is my client? Know your client, KYC. This is a critical question. We have had different views, but in terms of provoking a national conversation of what it means to be a citizen in one case, what it means to be a resident, and what it means for a president, who does the president have a duty to serve? If service is part of the covenant, part of the contract, who do I serve? Who do I have a duty to? Some people answer it in a self-serving way. Some people will be paternalistic and say, even if I don't see you, I see you. Even if you earn your money outside my knowledge and domain, I still want to tax you. Then you look at the basis of taxation. Income. Where is the income drawn? And where do I have to discharge my obligation? What is civics? What are the rights and duties of citizenship? You discover that actually we don't have a shared understanding. So by provoking with questions, it's not that we have the easy answers. We don't. And Munya Shonai says citizenship does not end just because you are outside of Zimbabwe. So what is citizenship then if it doesn't have any shoestring? Can I tie a shoe with the next centimeter of a string? That doesn't exist. Or I have to tie it with what I got. So Shonai says it doesn't end. It goes beyond. So it means the jurisdiction of Zimbabwe extends beyond the shoestring. What kind of civilization would that be? What is international law? What is Committee of Nations? What is sovereignty? So we have to answer that instead of pretending that the world is linear, is flat. I can move back and forth jurisdictions and do as I please. So those are the things that we need to confront. This is the reason why America, one of the biggest democracies, would go out of their way to rescue an American. That person is an American citizen, but if the American has decided to be African, like some of the people who left Europe, came to countries like Zimbabwe and decided to break all the bonds that connected them to where they were born, they become Zimbabwean. Some of them don't even know. They're not visitors, they don't even know where to start, even if you told them to go back. So where What shall we do when a person is elected to be a citizen of another country? Are they entitled to vote? Or they are denied the right to vote and speak their language? How many people say people who are not, who don't look like me, are perpetually or eternally foreign? I will not compensate them. Imagine somebody who came to Zimbabwe in good faith in 1980, saw the flag being raised of independence and the promises that it carried, and then be told, no, your assets, your money that you used to buy land or agricultural enterprise, it's not good money. It was a bad contract because it was founded on stolen land. And therefore, we're not going to compensate you. You have to bear the cost after losing not only the purchase price, but also the value in the property in question. Because you put value in it, your personality in it, build dams, irrigation, do all these things in good faith. And you are told you don't belong because you arrived after theft had taken place. But when I arrived, nobody ever told me there was theft. This was stolen property. But I got title deeds based on the laws of the country at the time. Then somebody says, I'm not going to listen to you. Then tomorrow it happens. Wellington gets a lease, builds infrastructure on the land, and somebody in government says, no, your land is too big. We have to cut it because they have another friend eyeing the irrigated portion. Then leaves you or condemns you to an area that is not irrigated. Is there a property right infringement, or there's a constitutional assertion that actually, as a government, we have a right to dispossess you because we are upholding the principles of the liberation struggle, that land belongs to black people. Any other interpretation is wrong. Imagine you are married to a white person, you die today, and then the identity of the farm changes from the black person you were married to the white person. And the law says land reform must benefit the black side who's dead. And you have a 99-year lease, and you have only been married for 9 years. You still have 90 years to go. Who has got the right to 90 years remaining on a right that you invested? You started a journey thinking you end up in 90 years, or if not, your investment in it will be converted into commercial use. Imagine you are a president and we are saying all Zimbabwean lives matter, but we are silent on property rights. We are silent on exchange rate. That exchange rate assumes that two voluntary parties, one gives up one currency, the other gives up another currency, and you agree on the terms and conditions of that. But somebody comes in and says, no, you are children. We determine the exchange rate. You must go to the auction and you get an exchange rate which is below what the value somebody is willing to pay. Are you going to say Zimbabwean lives matter? Only to the extent that there are some people who are already being exposed to some injustice, or we are going to be looking for injustice anyway, so that we may be able to say property matters, not Zimbabwe. Because what is a Zimbabwean? A mango will not complain about exchange rate. A tomato will not complain. But the one who picks the tomato, who grows the tomato, has reason to be angry. Because a tomato doesn't get itself to the market, doesn't get itself in a plastic pack. Human beings do. So when human beings do that, they are not doing it as a favor to the buyer or a seller. They're doing it because they're jealously guarding their interest. So when you tell me that this is what you should get, what are you saying to me in terms of the Constitution? You are my president. Who is going to protect me against theft by somebody else who would take my $1 US at 80 Zim dollars, only to sell that $1 US at 120. But because I'm an exporter, I'm not allowed to exit at a market exchange rate. What kind of Zimbabwe do you want? Is it a Zimbabwe that has lives, the human beings without their property, without their happiness? If I convert my money into happiness in form of a car, it's fine. I bring the car from South Africa, I pay my duty. It's my money. But when I bring cash into Zimbabwe, then I'm told you can't go left instead of right. Then you say, all lives, what is the life when I have been alienated from my property? Imagine you have a title deed in paper only, and you go to the same place that the title deed entitles you to. You find the property is occupied by somebody else or by 20 other people, and you are helpless. What kind of life is that? So, who is talking about property rights? But everyone has accepted that if you are white, you don't have a right to property. What if I don't like you and you are white to me? Because anyone I don't like, it's called pride and prejudice. If I'm prejudiced against Terai, how safe are you against prejudice? You may discover you are not. So this is the reason why we give up time to be able to talk about these difficult questions, because they're difficult indeed, because they touch on all of us. And I do hope that you don't see it as an exercise to argue. No. This is not time to argue. It's time to be able to what? To deal with the issues as they arise. And when we start arguing and calling each other stupid, then it means those voices will never be heard. And we keep on pretending that everything is okay when it's not okay. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mawere, for taking your time. And thank you, Tererai. It's been a pleasure having this discussion with you.
Thank you, Mr. Wellington, for having me. And thank you, Mr. Mawere, for taking time. I know that you are a busy man. You've got a lot of things to do. But thank you for taking time to discuss these issues, especially with a young man like myself. I respect you, sir, for that. Thank you very much for this platform.
Okay, thanks.